Lovely. Siún ní Ghlacáin, Méabh ní Bhéileáin, Tá fáilt roh Bert, go take Queallys and so. Is áid na carach agus is my hound sibh. You're very welcome. I'm going to say representatives of two very well-known musical families from Dublin. Yeah. But obviously divergence when it goes back to your forebears. Siún, give us a brief overview of your background in terms of your inspiration for music. I know you come from a very famous family of Dublin musicians.
Yeah. So I learned to fiddle off my dad, Kevin Ghlacáin, who learned to fiddle from his dad, Tom Ghlacáin, and he came from Donegal, Merrily up in Donegal, and he learned to fiddle from local musicians around there, and he kind of didn't really he played a bit when he was younger, but my dad said he kind of wasn't playing much until he moved to Dublin again when he was in his 20s, and
he got to Scotland.
He was from Scotland originally, but when he was 9 years of age, he was kind of sent to live with his auntie and uncle. They were living together up in their homestead, and he was up there until he was about 21, and he wrote a letter. I actually saw the letter recently. He wrote a letter to the guards to get in, and because he was such a tall man that he got in no bother and moved to Dublin, and then he kind of got involved in the old Pipers Club and stuff. He started kind of going to sessions. I suppose it was kind of a way of kind of getting to know people and stuff around the place. So that's, I think, when the interest kind of took up again with him. And then he taught his three sons to fiddle. So we were taught the same way. And then on the other side, my mum is from Queally, so she is from an Irish-speaking family. Before she was born, her family moved from Dublin first to Cucanandy and then to Queally, because my granddad Sean O'Riordan wanted to teach us. He wanted to rear his children through Irish, so he kind of made that big. I'd often think of that decision, isn't it mad? Like having, I think the eldest Pather was about 9 or 10 at that stage, and he just said, "No, we're going to start speaking Irish to each other from now on." And so they all moved in, and so she doesn't play, but she would have always been involved. And my mum and dad actually met in Miltown. However many years ago, I don't know now, was it in Queally's itself?
Right, yeah. I'll come back to you a little about Kevin, about his influence, his direct influence on how he learnt music and what he would have instilled in you. Maeve, tell me a bit about your own background.
So I just have it as well from the two sides, kind of. My father's father, my grandfather, also Tom Mulligan, he came from Bornacoola in County Leitrim, and he moved then to Phibsborough. He played the fiddle and the pipes. He was involved in setting up the music club in Church Street. He would have taught, like, my uncle Neely the pipes, and my uncle Alfie and my uncle Jerry, they all played the pipes. And then I suppose my dad didn't come to it till years later, but anyway, that's where the music came from on that side. And then on my mum's side of the family, my grandfather's name was Michael Ned Quinn. He came from South Mulligan in South Armagh. He was a big storyteller and a singer. So on that side of the family, we've songs and music as well. So it's coming as well from both sides of the family. My grandfather actually your grandfather wasn't able to go on the Coates tour or something one year. So my grandfather stood in for Tom Mulligan stood in for Tom Ghlacáin's place. So
funny, yeah.
They knew each other as well.
Yeah, they were friends. Yeah, I remember my granny telling me years ago. She was like, Tom Mulligan, and what was your granny's name?
Catherine or Kitty.
Kitty, yeah. She was like, oh, they were lovely people, and she was like, and it was gas because the two, my granddad and your granddad, were both kind of tall and probably look similar. And my granny said people used to always get them mixed up years ago. So it's funny now that we're still mates, like. Yeah.
And would you, I know it's something of a trite sort of point, but nonetheless, a lot of regional styles and people in regions value their immediate community. How much would you value the idea that you're Dublin musicians, that is a sort of a unique Dublin tradition? Was it something that would stand out to you, or do you sort of just say, no, we're part of the music community in general? Or
that's kind of, it's a funny question. I think when we were young, well, when I was personally younger, I think it was a bigger thing then, because we didn't probably travel around as much, and we were obviously both came from families that surrounded the music, so a lot of our networks were like kind of people, other kids or the similar age of, or my parents' friends all played music. So I think like at that time I felt very steeped in like Dublin music and being from Dublin, definitely growing up, and then when we kind of started coming down here and making friends from other counties and stuff like that maybe it's kind of a bit more diluted now.
Yeah, I think even Dublin is like, a lot of people move to Dublin and play music, and it's kind of a melting pot of nearly a mixture of styles as well in Dublin, so that's what we would have been listening to.
Don't need to be as indignant as we once were, possibly.
Yeah, I think it's more like, even I wouldn't have thought I had like a Dublin style, but maybe more because my family has a lot of pipers, that maybe it was kind of influenced more by that rather than the county itself.
What drew you to the concertina?
I don't know. I started off on the fiddle and the tin whistle and the fiddle, and then I just remember seeing someone playing the concertina, and I just said I just wanted to do it. Wanted to try it anyway, so I got a lend of one down in Drumshambo and just started kind of messing around in it, and then I went to Aoife O'Connor. Another great Dublin musician. But I went to Aoife O'Connor then out in Ballisodare for lessons, and she just made me love it as well, just with her, the crack that I had with her as well, as all the tunes.
You think that's an important thing? Something interesting you said there, she made me love it. Sometimes you can get obsessed with teaching or learning aspects of how music is passed on, but that idea of learning to love it, was that something you find very important? Yeah,
I think so as well, because I think that a lot of people can teach in a way that maybe it's like, this is a chore, I have to go home now and I have to practice my tunes, but she was kind of getting me to listen to music rather than just, these are the notes. She wouldn't write out the notes, it was recording, and I'd go home and listen and record and try to get it as close as I could to her. She'd tell me to listen to things on YouTube or listen to different tunes or give me different CDs to listen to. and it was just much more than being handed notes saying, right, here, learn that. It was like, yeah, and I think just the way, like, her whole enthusiasm about it, and it did make me love it, because I kind of before, like, I'd liked playing, but she just kind of gave me a real, like, kind of graw or something for it.
And what musicians inspired you and continue to inspire you today?
I don't know. I don't know. I think for Seamus Ennis always stuck out in my head with learn. I just remember listening to The Morning Thrush when I was younger, and like learning even the dialogue at the start. There's a tune I'd like to play for you, a tune composed by, like, I just remember listening to that and hearing the way that, like, just from listening to that, and I was always trying to get even The Morning Thrush, like, listen to all the way he was playing the regs and everything, just trying to play as much like him as I could. But that was just something that I used to just listen to and repeat all the time. But
very an iconic sound indeed.
Yeah.
Very much, and Ennis had that ability and influence over so many different traditional musicians. Siún, your father's a great friend of us all. Very unique take on music as well. Very much his father's son too, and we sadly lost Tom all too early. And he was a great character, and it's still a great passion and understanding of traditional music in his family, which has been passed on to you. Kevin had a unique way about, passing it on, and like we've often spoken about the need to sort of be. To discriminate positively in favour of traditional music, because there's so many other influences from popular culture, something that we hear as a young kid that's coming in from, and does you have to block out a certain period. What would you have done to what would you have?
He, I think, was, they say, like, you caught the bug, and he would have always said that, like, you can bring someone so far, like, trying to get us to play, or, oh, come on, do a bit of practice, but it is. And he always says to me, he's like, I can pinpoint the exact time you got into Irish music, and it's like, you have to kind of you can only bring someone up to a certain point. And it was a session in Drum Jambo, and you and Tig were playing, and I was there, and I didn't really know many of the tunes and stuff. And then he's like, I could just see it, I could see by it. And then I went home and I was learning like 5 or 6 tunes a day. I was just flat out. But he was like, it does. And he would have always said that, like, it has, something kind of clicks with you, and if you're lucky. And I think having, like, he would have always said, having friends and stuff and people around, and then so he would have always been kind of trying to get that kind of going in us as well. And then in terms of, like, it was just like with the listening, then, like, it was just a massive thing of, like, you have to be listening. Like, he's like 50% of doing the music or playing music is listening to music. He's like, at least, he's like, he would say the slower downers, it was a big bit of technology for us at the time. We were able to transcribe records at home onto the computer and then put them onto the slow down thing, and he'd be saying, go in there. I remember learning, like, Michael Coleman tunes, and, like, he'd be like, go do that phrase 10 or 15 times, and just kind of trying to get you a small bit obsessive over it. And, like, it was always just, like, I remember as well, he would try to get us to listen to it and form an opinion. I remember that with when we'd be younger, we'd be saying, "Da, is he good? Is he good at music? Like, are they good? Is that?" Or, like, if anything came on, like, someone on the Late could be playing on the guitar, would be saying. I remember Darren asking my sister. She said, "Is he a good guitar player now, Dad?" And he said, turned around and said to her, "It's like, well, what do you think? Like, listen to him and, like, tell me what you think." So I think that was always a big thing as well, of trying to get us to properly engage with what we liked about it and what we didn't, and what was the, like, the traditional sound, kind of, then trying to, like, emulate that, I suppose, in a way. But yeah.
He had a very strong connection with this house, this pub as well. Sorok and Kevin might actually very well have met in here for the first time.
It's got, like, even walking in, I just, like, when I was sitting down at the back there, I was saying, God, I've heard so much about, and I'd say you as well, about this pub, and, like, the crack that used to go on, and I'm looking down at the bar and thinking like of how full Fria's was last night. I can only imagine when this was in full
Kevin would
flight.
arrive down with Owen Kenny and
Yeah.
Fintan O'Macher and Mickey Kenny, and there's a gang of them from Dublin that used to come
Yeah.
down, and they'd arrive down on Thursday and they'd camp here until the Sunday.
I can
When
imagine.
I was 6 years younger than him, and I
Yeah.
remember saying to him, and it was got that kind of positive influence that Kevin had around music.
Yeah.
Remember, I was a little bit younger, but I was looking up to these guys, and
Yeah.
he said, "What's your favourite tune?" The Humours of Ballyloughlin. You go, "Right, lads, the Humours of Ballyloughlin." And he'd play
Ah,
for
and
you.
he'd play it,
I remember
yeah.
as a kid here specifically.
Yeah, that's gas.
And, a great tradition in this house.
Yeah.
You play a lot together. Obviously, that can be heard from your music. It's
Yeah.
evident immediately.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about playing together in ensemble playing. I know you probably value solo music, but
Yeah.
who do you play with in Dublin?
Yeah, well, the two of us, and we've two other the McCrahons, Ruth and Libby. Like the four of us would be kind of a lot of the time. We do the Keownam on and stuff. And like like there was always like a big gang of us, but I suppose we kind of just kept going. We were like when we were, I suppose, starting out in college. At everything, the four of us would be
as much as we could go to.
Like,
We'd go every week. We're like, who's going to this festival?
Every weekend, like we'd be going to stuff, and then we'd like Pork Og as well, Pork Og McEgan and Deirdre Egan and Liam Lonergan. Like we were so lucky. Like even like my brother, like 3 years younger than us, he doesn't have the same like amount. We are just whatever about our age group.
The gang, there was loads of us in kind of at the same age group, and like just I think that is really what has kept us going is like the gang and the crack that we had, like going camping at things and just like and
we got on so well, all of us always we've all been like best mates since we were about 9 or 10.
First time I met Siún was in the Bellbridge in here. I gave her a go with my Heelys, you know, the shoes with the heels on the bottom.
With the
wheel, she's looking at me and I was like, do you want to go? And then we were sending each other things on like infrared on our phones to each other. And just like that then, that was it. We were friends, we'd see each other in Drumshambo and we were in like a kind of like the Kyoto Clune Tarf thing. So we were there every Saturday, 6 to 8 until we were 18. And then when that finished, we were like, how do we meet up now? And we just continued it on. We just kept meeting up and kept going to as much things as you could. But I think like I think that is really what's kept most of us going. It's just the crack that we have together. Like like every week we all just like meet and just sit in each house and it's not even not even sometimes playing music, just sitting there
and it's great because like we don't just meet up to play music. We meet up and we're talking about other different things. Like we're friends outside of music as well, which is it's not like we're so lucky that we get on so well. And like because I know you do see other people and there's just not as many kids around like their area that play music. Like we were so lucky with whatever happened. We were all just similar ages and that we all got on so well. Like it's
Ireland again as well.
Ireland, yeah, absolutely. Sorry, how could I forget you? I was in school with Ireland and we used to do Sheensa groups in school and there'd be killings over the Sheensa groups. We could bring up a few
frenemies.
But no, we all took it very seriously and we were lucky in Cláiste, East Scotland Cláiste, that there was a lot of musicians around there. Ryan McBride as well was in our class in school, so myself and Iarla and Ryan McBride and so the O'Cossidas were in different years and we used to have great crack together. Like
you both sing as well?
Yeah.
And do you sing together?
No, actually we've never did. Do you know what, years ago, remember we were trying to go to America. There was Tom
showcase on in the Cobblestone.
Yeah, there was some showcase on, so we
would have done anything to
get it. Obviously we haven't done it since it didn't work for us, so we said we better give that up. But no, we don't sing together.
Okay, have you tried on the tune for us?
Yeah. We do that Maria's. Do you want to do first into yeah. We'll just do it the moat 4 times.
lovely brace of reels, finishing with George White's.
Yeah.
I think, great reel.
It's a great reel.
Beautiful tune, and lovely playing. Méabh, your family are from a significant institution now in terms of Irish traditional music in Dublin, in the Cobblestone pub, which is, how long is the Cobblestone open now?
Over 30 years.
30 years.
30
and
years.
It's been a very important location for Irish traditional music, especially in the city. What makes it unique, do you think?
I think that it's trying not to be. I think that it's not trying to be anything else. It's like my dad kind of tried it out like about maybe 20 years ago, trying to have a bit of a session in it. He said it was going to be either a motorbiking pub, like that type of pub, or music. And he said, well, I know a bit about music. His father played, his brothers play, so he said, I'll go for that. And he had a bit of a session, and then it's just been gradual over the last 20 years. Like if you go in now, you can barely get in the door, or you can barely get a seat.
It's even like, on a Tuesday at 4 o'clock.
Yeah,
it's just...
there's queues outside the door on a Wednesday of like people going to try to play a session. Like it's like, and that hasn't just been like that over. Like my dad's saying, it's like it's been an overnight success after 20 years. Like it's now that it's starting to kind of pick up momentum, and now that people are kind of realising it, I suppose, because it hasn't changed. It hasn't started going like tempo bar, mic'd up, anything like that. It stayed as it is 20 years ago. It's just now there's more people coming, I suppose, to see it. But there's sessions there like from. It's just more and more sessions all the time. Even the pubs are now open earlier because some people are saying there's Joe Higgins comes in on a Wednesday, and there's people like there's Lucia McPartland's dad comes. He gets to train up from Tipperary every Wednesday and is there when the doors open at 3:30 or whatever, and they play the session. And he has the balaclavas in the back room, and it's just like there's a real good buzz of people kind of learning. There's no, like, I suppose there depends on different sessions as well, but it's just like kind of welcomes everyone. There could be musicians in from America or any country, and they're coming in and they just if they have an instrument, they bring it and they try it, and like everyone's kind of welcome, I suppose, to play.
Tom he's always equally as happy to see some random Canadian coming in as he is like I don't know some big renowned musician. He'd be give each of them an equal amount of time. Like he would. Like, I think that makes a big difference.
Well known for that. That welcome. Yeah. Siún, in terms, you would have, as you said, you grew up immersed in music. You're very lucky you had a gang. That often happens. That is a gang of friends and lifelong friends become immersed in it, and it helps everyone to develop a deeper interest in the music.
Yeah.
In terms of the importance of various gatherings, where would you place Scoil or Willie Clancy?
It's the number one, isn't it? Like it's the listening to Andy Irvine in the middle of November when we were about 18 or 19. My heart tonight's in Sweetland, Miltown, Malbay. Like there's just it'll never ever be. It's I don't know. Is it because it's probably one of the longest running music festivals? Or what? I don't know. Is it the place?
Summer schools.
Yeah. Or sorry, summer schools. Sorry. Yeah, an important correction. I don't know. Is it because it's one of the longest running ones, or is it the ethos that the kind of people involved in it have, and the attitude they have towards it? But it's just like,
and even it's just like it's a place that you make all these friends from all around Ireland, and it's just the place that you meet them every year. Like we used to go to Drumshambo and other things like that, but it's Miltown's like the guaranteed one that you'll meet everyone at. Like we just get so excited, but like even when we were younger, just like what are we gonna wear? Even this year we were like making a Miltown outfit chat, being like what are we all packing? Like and we're still at we're 26 and we're still like so excited to be like, who are we going to see, you know?
Yeah. And because it's like the time, like it's the first summer school in the summer, like the start of July. So like even now we're both teaching, but when you were a kid, like you'd get your holidays maybe 2 or 3 days before, and you're straight down to this, and it's like it kicks off the summer of music and a summer of.
I think you touched on it there when you said about the ethos of the people who run it. And I think we can all be very grateful that the ethos has pertained for such a long time, and it hasn't changed. It hasn't tried to be something else.
Yeah, and it's hard, like as well, to keep that going, and especially when people are saying, "Oh, you could be making money doing this if you did this," or, you know, if you kind of got that going, but it's just kind of stayed.
So we're just gonna, before you finish with your last set of tunes, I'm gonna put one thing to both of you just straight away, and I just want to give me your immediate answer, what you think of what it means to you, and I'll ask you both separately. Irish traditional music.
Everything. Just, you know, it's just, and like now, and my dad, he'd always say, look, it's important, like when you love music, it's important to have things outside of it, but of all the hobbies or the interests you have, it's the one that's been with me, and I know with you as well, from day dot, and it's still something that you just get so much enjoyment out of now, and it's great that it's always ever growing and changing.
I was about to say everything as well. I just think like there's nothing more important than it. It's like our country's music, and I just think it makes you feel such a connection with people and with your country as well. It makes you just so proud to have like the amount of stuff that Ireland has going for.
Yeah. And
the language, the sport, the music, the culture, everything is just like, it's class. And it's great that people are starting to realise like how important it is. Even like seeing it at real mainstream festivals and stuff in the summer now, they're all having like loads of Irish traditional music at it, and kind of folk stuff, which is it's cool, and we're just like
it's such a sense of identity, I think.
Yeah.
Like, I'd always, do you know what, when you'd hear growing up and people would be saying, oh, you need to figure out who you are, and or like, you know, who you as a person, but you're probably the same. Always, because of music, always had that massive sense of identity, and it's a privilege. Like, we're very lucky that we come from families that are so steeped in it, and that we ourselves love it as well. Like,
I just feel so lucky to be involved in it, because now you see people kind of coming in and being like, oh, I wish I started that when I was younger. And like, we actually are so lucky that our families were so immersed, and that we were kind of pushed, and also that we had the friends, and like that kind of pride ourselves in it.
Well, thanks very much for sharing your views, your ideas, and your music indeed with us today at the Irish Traditional Music Archive. So to finish with a couple of
hot jigs.
Lovely. Could have been a mahagov.
We do them all.